huge breaking news right now.
We have some big news right now.
We have some terrible breaking news coming. We have some
People working in ballet or
other
opera
terrible breaking
or,
recommendations.
things where it's like, hey, keep this thing alive.
Carter G. Woodson said, if you control a man's thinking, you don't have to worry about what he'll do. He'll find his proper place in society and get in it.
If you're trying to stop donating your time to billionaires, well, so am I.
The internet isn't just distracting you, it's training you. And I don't think we realize what it's training us into. Because if you leave anything alone for too long, it doesn't stay the same. It drifts. A clean room becomes messy, a sharp skill becomes dull, a focused mind becomes scattered.
There's a word for this: entropy.
The natural tendency for things to fall into disorder unless energy is applied. And I think we underestimated how much that applies to us. Good evening, scholars. This is an announcement. Please do not panic. Panicking is inefficient and makes the algorithms nervous. The study itself appeared to dim. This is believed to be temporary. Light returns when attention does. Welcome back to the study. According to Oxford, the word of the year for 2024 was brain rot. The word for 2025 was rage bait. And I think a lot of us agree that the word, even though these are phrases, for 2026 will be AI slop. And I don't really want to bring up WALL-E because I feel like everybody doing a video of similar topic brings up the chunky humans of WALL-E, but maybe it's some billionaire's blueprints, because is it really fiction or... I didn't really notice it at first, and I honestly can't put my finger on when my screen time went from maybe 1 hour into double digits. But I do remember the times in my childhood where I would sink countless hours playing games like Minecraft and creating beautiful worlds, or getting lost hanging out with friends in MMORPGs like MapleStory, and suddenly I would look at the clock and it's 2 a.m. I didn't feel horrible, I felt accomplished, and I wanted to quickly get my homework done and log back into these online worlds. But with doomscrolling, I sink way too many hours into these horrible doomscrolling cycles. I don't feel good when I leave. A lot of the times, especially now in this current climate, I feel very angry, I feel sad, I feel helpless, I feel frustrated. And with these social media apps, they obviously just want to capture your attention, keep you engaged, keep you reacting, and try to sell you something. Going back to video games, both can eat hours, except they feel completely different because they engage your brain in different ways. With video games, we are making decisions, solving problems, learning a system, improving skills over time. We are experiencing the cycle of challenge, failure, and mastery. It's interactive, engaging feedback and closure. Doomscrolling is just endless consumption and reacting. So my brain goes, wait, what did we actually do? Too much of anything is bad, of course, and lots of things can turn into unhealthy escapism. But with the phone, at first it really did feel harmless. Scrolling while I ate, watching something while I got ready, filling every quiet moment with background noise. It didn't feel like I was losing anything, but slowly I stopped being able to sit with my own thoughts. I was reaching for my phone without even thinking, waking up at night with my phone in my hand, and switching off videos after just 10 seconds. It was just like creating a feeling of being restless in silence, like something was missing. My life felt chaotic, but also empty. And I didn't realize I was stuck in a feedback loop of impact bias, where I was constantly thinking, this news is really important, I need to understand this fully or I'll feel worse. Dealing with digital anhedonia, where I had a reduced ability to experience pleasure in the real world due to exposure to constant digital media, and an overstimulated and exhausted brain. And I came across this amazing article by Packy McCormick, where he created this theory on entropy. Entropy theory explains industry evolution as a story of ever-increasing chaos and suggests that the most successful businesses are those that use the latest technology to wrangle that chaos until entropic forces unleash the next set of opportunities.
So he goes on to say that these big tech companies are entropy wranglers, that they take the chaos, that's where like companies like Google created a output, but as we can see that wrangling pre-existing entropy also introduces new entropy into the system. And then we have these little money grabby symbiotic barnacles, like the barnacles on whale, where they are just getting free rides, free money from the entropy that these companies are producing. They're just raking in money because they know that really their product is not going to help with this doom scrolling, because it was created, the internet is a very powerful system, and these social media websites and algorithms, and AI platforms, they are created and funded by the same billionaires that are funding the race to end state capitalism and run us into early techno-feudalism. And their goal is just to profit off of the masses, and we are the masses. And I have honestly tried them all. I have tried free app blockers, I have tried free trials, and sometimes I forget about the trials, so I end up having to pay. I have tried grayscale, having a plant pet that I take care of, and if I go on my phone before the Pomodoro timer runs out, it kills my plant, and it doesn't work. I just easily find myself deleting it after an hour, and I kind of feel like in the back of our mind we all know that these apps are not going to work, that they are gimmicky, because since the tale as old as time, we parents have been trying to get their children to pay attention, focus, listen, do what you're supposed to do, and it's still not solved. I mean, there's like a deeper rooted issue that we have to nip, that these apps do not touch at all.
I think that deeper thought that we have to keep in the back of our mind is that we should remember tomorrow isn't promised. A great book to read is from a palliative nurse named Bronnie Ware, who documented the most common end-of-life regrets of her patients in her book, The Top 5 Regrets of the Dying. The biggest ones weren't about missing information or not staying updated or the amount of money or items they have accumulated. It was things like, I wish I had lived a life true to myself. I wish I hadn't worked so hard. I wish I had let myself be happier. I wish I had stayed in touch with the people I love. Because at the end, what matters is presence, connection, and lived moments, not consumed ones. In The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle, he argues that most suffering comes from being stuck in the past because that's regret, or being trapped in the future because that's anxiety. Doomscrolling, when you think about it, is almost pure future anxiety. Constant anticipation of what might go wrong, constant mental projection. It really disconnects you from the only place life actually happens, which is right now. A really good example of this beyond tech is in the Disney movie Soul. Joe Gardner, who is a middle school band teacher, is obsessed with his dream of being a famous jazz pianist. He had a false hope that his dream would fix his reality, but when he was finally able to live that dream, the illusion was shattered. And this is another example of impact bias, where you overestimate the emotion of future circumstances. Chasing end product versus actually living. Joy from the act itself and the process.
Children aren't really allowed to be marketed to. They aren't really allowed to be products. We were creators and not consumers. Children, they are still a little protected. So I feel like these social media apps and these AI platforms, they are training us to just be consumer. They just supply a product and they take out the intention and humanity. Videos created by people, it came from somebody, but then when you put it in short form and you put it into an algorithm that has more nefarious reasons, it takes out the humanity, it takes out the intention. It's just made to keep you reacting, scrolling, staying on their platform. It just comes to a point where you have to decide if you want to live a product-focused life or a process-focused life. A product-focused life, you're just mainly focused on views, comments, likes, AI output, new products that gave you a dopamine hit for 5 seconds that you'll never use. Like, we're busy, but we're not building skills. You feel accomplished in the short term, but in the long term, you feel restless and empty. Meanwhile, a process-focused life, you measure yourself by doing, creating, experimenting, failing, and learning. The act of creation itself builds skill, identity, and meaning. And I find that even tiny outputs, like practicing piano for 5 minutes, writing in a journal for 5 minutes, doodling for 5 minutes, keeps your mental state organized. And I think a lot of us, this may be harsh and I don't truly know, but I feel like we all do have 5 minutes. Even if you are very busy, like at work, like commuting to work, however you commute, you can take 5 minutes to listen to an audiobook or a podcast or do something for yourself to better yourself in the long run, because a first step is better than no steps at all.
So I came across this keynote speech by Brandon Sanderson where he was speaking about AI generated art, and it was honestly so inspiring. And his point wasn't really that technology was bad, it was more about us. And he said a lot of things that really stayed with me, that the value of art isn't just the final piece. It's the process, the time, the repetition, the effort it takes to make something. And in that process, you're becoming someone more fulfilled, that we are the art.
The process of creating art makes art of you. My friends, let me repeat that. The book, the painting, the film script is not the only art. It's important, but in a way it's a receipt. It's a diploma. The book you write, the painting you create, the music you compose is important and artistic, but it's also a mark of proof that you have done the work to learn, because in the end of it all, you are the art.
And going back to like AI and AI platforms, AI can create almost anything for us, and the internet can fill every moment with endless content. It's just so easy to think that we're engaged, but all we are doing is consuming. We're training ourselves to sit still and scroll and react. Our attention becomes a product instead of a tool. Creativity, skill, and presence, the things that grow through process, atrophy. When you create, even in tiny ways, you reclaim your mind from entropy, and you start to become someone who does, not someone who watches. So I took some time to think, how was my childhood? My childhood was structured. Sports, homework, books, playing in the woods, making up stories, arts and crafts. I felt fulfilled and I hated being bored. I wasn't allowed unlimited TV, maybe 30 minutes to an hour before and after school and homework. No TVs in the bedroom. The weekends were so much fun because that's when I finally got to do what I liked. I usually got to play my favorite video games like Reader Rabbit, Junkyard Jam, and Freddy Fish, and when I got older, Minecraft and MapleStory, and basically do whatever I wanted, when I wanted, and I took immense advantage of that. But that taking advantage of my free time, that stems from my parents making rules. Doomscrolling is engineered to win. It's fast, rewarding, frictionless, it's low energy, so it's hard to beat as an adult where you don't have a parent that will ground you. We need to give our rules teeth. We need to make things annoying. So I decided to log out of apps when I'm done, so there's friction to re-enter and change my password to something I have to write down to remember. So, I mean, honestly, it increases security and of course adds friction. And I actually bought one of these physical lock boxes, and it makes it so annoying to navigate your phone, but it's still usable. So I don't get that, oh, what if somebody texts me or what if somebody calls me? It just makes it very annoying to use because I'm basically having to use it like one of those old puzzle games where you had to kind of rotate a platform to get a ball moving. It's basically that. And also, if you want to go nuclear level, you can turn it around and it can actually turn into a timeout. And it's like, okay, to get your phone out, you have to break it. So it's like, oh, if you don't want to break it, then you have to just deal with the annoyance of it being in this lockbox. This one actually really worked for me. And if that doesn't work, you can also, if you're with a partner or you have friends or even your parents, you can tell somebody that you'll give them money if they catch you doom scrolling, or even like donate $5 to your saving account for the $5 of ad revenue you just stuffed into some mega corporation's wallet for free. And honestly, something that I also like to do is setting time limits. I like to set a relaxing 5-minute alarm just to alert me of the passing time. It just helps me stay aware of myself and my surroundings. It's kind of like when you leave food in the microwave and every minute it lets out that beep to let you know that, like, hey, a minute's passed and your food is still in here. You know, you get it. There's physical teeth, social teeth, financial teeth to these rules that you can apply to yourself. And also some rewires that you could try that worked very well for me is that my brain's default landing page when I got home from work was to just sit down on the couch and doom scroll. And right when I walk back into my house, I immediately put down everything and go upstairs to practice. And I just trick myself and say, I'm just gonna practice for 5 minutes. And of course, once I get into the practice mode, I'm not going to put it down for 5 minutes. Change your routine. So like after this video, right when you come home from work, don't immediately sit down, grab your phone. Actually try to do something and maybe leave it out the night before and see if that helps change anything or jump starts a kind of rewire to your brain. So this also goes into building micro trust. I'll only practice, paint, or read a book for 2 or 5 minutes if I am like really bad, because it's just such a low amount of time. It's just like, okay, fine, I'll open up my book, and you know, like I said before, I always do more. So just build that micro trust and increase. And this leads to the golden rule, which is accountability and awareness. Nobody is truly there to stop you from doing something. And we don't have to truly follow rules, and there's not any consequences when it's our free time. I think we just have to always be doing body scans and naming emotions, being aware of emotions, and just changing our minds to be more intentional. It's almost like when I take a nap, I'll feel more revitalized if I only nap for 10 minutes. But it feels so good to nap for 2 hours until you wake up, and then when you wake up, you feel like crap. It's kind of the same thing with doom scrolling, in my opinion.
Technology isn't all bad. It just matters that it stays a tool, not something that replaces the process of living. So yeah, the algorithm is training you and targeting you, but it's also mapping your attention. And sometimes it's worth pausing to notice what it keeps showing you, because it can point you towards things like new hobbies, old interests you forgot about, things you already loved but stopped touching. It kept feeding me van life and camping videos, and I realized I've always loved that kind of thing. Stories of people in nature, books about resilient women living close to the wild. So one weekend I finally went. I went to the river, and I was surprised by how simple it was, how calm it felt. I had forgotten I could just do that, just go. And I started noticing a pattern, not inspiration exactly, more like recognition. using social media as a tool to reflect my interests back to me instead of kind of a place to shop for curated lives and compare them. I follow a lot of musicians too in gym content, people who are just locked in and not really performing, but just showing up and showing their process. So the question isn't really how do I use my phone less, it's more like, why am I seeing all of this and it still feels like something I'm just watching instead of living, even to a tiny degree. Honestly, I think somewhere along the way I started consuming the feeling of life more than actually participating in it, because somehow scrolling can make real life feel further away than it is, but it really isn't. So I'm just trying to notice that gap more between what I consume and what I actually go out and live. And once I did this, it's starting to feel less like a feed and more like a mirror. So I didn't delete everything, and I didn't move to the woods and become a hermit and only partake in analog hobbies. I just stopped donating my time for free. And the study feels brighter already. Until next time, dear scholar, I'll leave a candle lit for you.